The red dust settled around Commander Alex Chin as she stepped onto the Martian surface for the first time. 20 years of training, preparation, and sacrifice had led to this moment. She glanced at the small group of colonists behind her, 15 specialists chosen to establish humanity's first permanent settlement on the Red Planet. "Commence atmospheric readings," she ordered through her comms as the team spread out. The mission was clear: lay the groundwork for a mining operation that would extract the rare minerals Earth desperately needed, but Mars had other plans. "Commander, you need to see this." Lieutenant Rivera's voice crackled through the radio. His usual cool demeanor was shaken. 2 kilometers north of base camp. I don't know how to explain it. When Chin reached the location, the sight before her defied everything humanity thought they knew about Mars. A perfectly circular opening in the planet's surface, at least 30 meters wide, with smooth walls that couldn't possibly be natural. And it was warm, impossibly warm in the frigid Martian atmosphere. "How deep does it go?" she asked, peering over the edge. "Sensors can't penetrate beyond 100 meters, Rivera replied, checking his equipment again. "It's as if something's blocking our readings." Chen knew the protocol for unexpected discoveries. Report back to Earth Command and await instructions. But Earth was a 20-minute communication delay away, and something about this discovery felt urgent. The mission parameters classified Mars as a Class 3 planet, inhospitable but lifeless. Yet the perfectly formed tunnel before them suggested otherwise. "Dr. Taylor, what's your assessment?" Chen turned to their xenobiologist. Taylor knelt at the edge, running a specialized scanner over the strange material that lined the opening. "This isn't natural basalt or any known Martian mineral. It appears to be engineered. Commander, I think we need to reclassify immediately. These readings suggest biological activity. Significant biological activity." The team exchanged uneasy glances. Biologically active meant life, and unknown life meant potential danger. "What classification are we looking at?" Chen asked quietly. Taylor's face paled as she studied her readings. Based on energy signatures and thermal output, this would qualify as a Class 15 Deathworld scenario. The silence that followed was deafening. Class 15 was reserved for planets with aggressive, intelligent predatory species. No human mission had ever encountered anything above Class 8. "That's impossible," Rivera muttered. Every scan from orbit showed nothing. Decades of rovers found nothing. How could we miss something this significant? Chen's mind raced through the possibilities. The tunnel was too perfect, too deliberate. Either Mars harbored an advanced civilization they'd somehow missed, or, "Get me a secure line to Earth Command," she ordered, "and prepare the emergency protocols." As the team hustled to follow orders, Chen noticed strange markings along the inner wall of the tunnel. Geometric patterns that seemed vaguely familiar. She zoomed in with her helmet camera. "Commander," Dr. Taylor called out, her voice trembling. "I've analyzed the material composition of the tunnel walls. It's a synthetic compound with traces of titanium alloy and carbon nanotubes. This technology, it's human." The revelation hit the team like a physical blow. Human technology, buried deep under the Martian surface, predating their mission by what must be decades. "Check the database for previous missions," Chin ordered, though she already knew the answer. No official human mission had ever reached this part of Mars. "Nothing, Commander. This area was designated unexplored territory." Before Chen could process this information, a low vibration began beneath their feet. The ground trembled, and distant mechanical sounds echoed from deep within the tunnel. Something was coming up. "Pull back to base camp. Now." Chen ordered. As they retreated, Chen's comm unit crackled with an incoming transmission from Earth. The message was brief and classified for her eyes only. When she read it, her blood ran cold. Project Heimdall. Classification: Omega Black. Abort mission. Destroy all evidence. Chen stared at the message in disbelief. Project Heimdall had been rumored among high-ranking officials for years, a shadow program operating outside official channels. But what were they doing on Mars? And why would Earth Command want all evidence destroyed? The rumbling grew louder. Whatever lay beneath the surface was getting closer. Chen had to make a choice: follow orders and destroy evidence of what could be the most significant discovery in human history, or find out what Earth was hiding beneath the red sands of Mars. Behind her, a massive mechanical form began to emerge from the tunnel, casting a long shadow across the Martian landscape. And with it came a terrifying realization: humanity's darkest secret had been buried on Mars long before their arrival, and it was about to be uncovered. Commander Chen tucked the classified message into her suit's secure pocket and rejoined her team. The rumbling beneath their feet intensified as they hurried back toward base camp, each step kicking up clouds of rust-colored dust. "Listen up," Chen said, breathing heavily as they moved in formation. "No one discusses what we found until I've had time to assess the situation." "That's an order." The team's silence spoke volumes. They'd all seen enough to know this discovery would change everything. If they lived to report it. 3 years earlier, Chen had been a decorated pilot with a promising career ahead of her when Earth United Space Agency approached her about leading the Mars Colonial Initiative. Earth's resources were dwindling, and Mars represented humanity's best hope for mining the rare minerals needed to sustain civilization. The mission was presented as humanity's greatest achievement, the first permanent human settlement on another world. Now, she wondered what else they hadn't told her. "Commander, the seismic activity is increasing," Rivera reported, checking his wrist display. "Whatever's coming up that tunnel is massive." Back at the hastily established base camp, Dr. Yoshida, their systems engineer, was waiting with additional concerns. "We've lost contact with the orbital relay," she explained, her expression grave. "All communications with Earth have been severed." Chen felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Martian cold. "When did this happen?" "Exactly 3 minutes after you sent your report about the tunnel," Yoshida replied. "The timing can't be coincidental." The team gathered in the central module, faces illuminated by the dim emergency lighting. Outside, night was falling on the Martian landscape, casting long shadows across the barren terrain. "I need to be straight with you all," Chen said, making a decision that violated every protocol in her training. "Earth Command sent me a classified directive. They want us to destroy all evidence of the tunnel and abandon the mission site." Shocked murmurs rippled through the group. "That's insane," Rivera sighed. This could be the most important scientific discovery in human history." Dr. Taylor nodded in agreement. "The biological readings alone could revolutionize our understanding of life in the universe." "Unless it's not alien," Chen said quietly. The module fell silent. "What are you suggesting?" Yoshida asked. "The technology in that tunnel is human in origin. Project Heimdall? It's a classified Earth operation that's been operating here for decades, possibly longer. The question is, what were they doing and why doesn't Earth want us to know about it?" Before anyone could respond, the ground shook violently. Equipment tumbled from shelves, and warning alarms blared throughout the module. "Something's approaching from the tunnel," Rivera reported, checking the perimeter sensors. "Moving fast. Multiple signatures." Chen made a rapid decision. "Dr. Yoshida, I need you to get our communications back online, bypass the relay if necessary. We need to establish direct contact with someone at command we can trust. Rivera, Taylor, secure the perimeter defenses. The rest of you, prepare for emergency evacuation procedures." As the team scattered to their assignments, Chen accessed her personal terminal. Her security clearance might reveal something about Project Heimdall in the mission archives. The search returned a single file, heavily redacted but containing fragments that painted a disturbing picture. References to genetic adaptation protocols and terraforming acceleration appeared alongside warnings about containment failures and evolutionary divergence. One paragraph remained mostly intact. Project Heimdall was established in 2031 as humanity's insurance policy. Earth's environment was deteriorating faster than publicly acknowledged. Mars offered a chance to develop alternative human adaptations that could survive in hostile conditions. Initial test subjects showed promising results, but ethical concerns led to the project's official termination. Unofficial operations continued under Omega Black classification. 2031, nearly 40 years ago. Long before any official human had set foot on Mars, Chen's blood ran cold as the implications became clear. Earth hadn't sent them to establish the first human colony on Mars. They'd sent them to clean up evidence of a decades-old experiment that had gone terribly wrong. The module's lights flickered as another tremor shook the base. Through the viewport, Chen saw a plume of dust rising from the direction of the tunnel, silhouetted against the setting sun. "Commander!" Rivera's voice crackled over the comm, "You need to see this." On the perimeter camera feed, a figure was emerging from the dust cloud. Humanoid in basic shape, but wrong in every detail. Taller and broader than any human, with a reinforced exoskeleton that appeared to be partially fused with its body. Its movements were deliberate, almost mechanical, yet unmistakably alive. Behind it, more shapes appeared, dozens of them, moving with unsettling coordination. "My God," Taylor whispered, staring at her biological scanner. "They're human, or they were once. The genetic modifications are extensive, but the base DNA is unmistakably Homo sapiens." Chen watched as the leader of the group stopped, tilted its head upward, and seemed to stare directly into the camera. Its face was protected by what appeared to be a breathing apparatus that had grown into its skull, but its eyes, perfectly adapted to the Martian environment, were unmistakably human, and they were filled with an intelligence that sent shivers down Chen's spine. "They know we're here," she said, "and I think they've been waiting for us." "Lock down the base," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "All personnel, battle stations." The modified humans, if they could still be called that, had stopped about 50 meters from the perimeter. They made no aggressive moves, but their very presence felt like a threat hanging in the thin Martian air. "They're communicating," Taylor said, studying her instruments. "Not vocally, but there are electromagnetic pulses being exchanged between them. Some form of evolved tech-based telepathy." Rivera checked the weapons systems. The colonial mission had been equipped with defensive measures against potential geological hazards, not against an intelligent force. "Our options are limited, Commander. We have mining explosives and basic tactical gear. If they decide to attack..." Chen studied the beings through the viewport. They were arranged in a perfect semicircle, their leaders slightly ahead of the others. Despite their altered appearance, she could see traces of humanity in their movements, in the way they organized themselves. "I don't think they're here to attack," she said slowly. "If they wanted us dead, they could have struck while we were investigating the tunnel. They're waiting for something. Or someone," Yoshida added. "Commander, I've managed to recover fragments of a transmission that came through just before our communications were cut. It was directed to the colony ship in orbit, not to us." The message was brief. "Heimdall assets awakened. Protocol Omega Black authorized. Retrieval team inbound. Maximum containment required." Chen felt the pieces clicking into place. "They're sending a specialized team to deal with whatever's down there. We're expendable, just here to confirm the location before the real mission arrives." The realization hit the team hard. They weren't explorers or colonists, they were bait. "How long until this retrieval team arrives?" Rivera asked. Yoshida checked her calculations. "Based on orbital trajectories and the timestamp, less than 6 hours." Chen made a decision that went against everything in her training. "Dr. Taylor, I need you to establish communication with them." Taylor looked stunned. "With the Heimdall subjects?" "We don't know their language, their intentions." "Find a way," Chen interrupted. "If we're going to survive this, we need to understand what we're dealing with." While Taylor worked, Chen gathered the rest of the team. "We need to prepare for multiple scenarios. If these beings are hostile, we'll need defensive positions and an escape route. If they're not, we need to hear their side before the retrieval team arrives." 3 tense hours passed. The modified humans remained in their formation, unmoving despite the harsh Martian night that had descended. Inside the base, the atmosphere was thick with tension and unspoken questions. Taylor finally emerged from her makeshift communications lab. "I've established a rudimentary interface using electromagnetic pulses. Their communication method is complex, part digital, part biological, but there are patterns. I believe they're trying to reach us too. Chen followed Taylor to her station, where a basic translation program was running. What have they said? Not much yet, but one phrase keeps repeating. The creators have returned. The phrase sent chills down Chen's spine. They think we're the ones who made them. Or at least connected to those who did, Taylor agreed. I've been able to establish that they call themselves the Adapted. They've been living in underground habitats for generations. They knew we were coming. They've been monitoring our approach since we entered Mars orbit. Before Chen could respond, Rivera burst into the lab. Commander, we've got movement from the tunnel. Something else is coming up, something big. On the monitor, they watched as a massive form emerged from the tunnel entrance. Unlike the humanoid Adapted, this was a machine, a mining platform that had been grotesquely modified with biological components. Parts of it pulsed with an organic quality that made Chen's stomach turn. They've merged with our technology, Yoshida whispered. The original mining equipment from Project Heimdall? The machine lumbered toward the waiting Adapted, who parted to let it pass. It continued its path straight toward the colony base. It's heading right for us, Rivera said, readying the defense systems. Orders, Commander? Before Chen could respond, Taylor's translation program began streaming text. Do not fear. Bring knowledge. Bring truth. Creators betrayed us. Creators returning to destroy us. Chen stared at the message, then at the approaching machine. A decision point was rapidly approaching. Trust these evolved humans who had survived decades of abandonment on Mars, or follow Earth Command's directive to destroy all evidence. Hold your fire, Chen ordered. But keep the systems ready. The massive machine stopped just short of the perimeter, extending what appeared to be a communication array. Taylor's instruments lit up with incoming data. My God, she breathed. They're sending us their history. Everything that happened after Project Heimdall was officially terminated. The data streamed across their screens, records of the early experiments, genetic modifications designed to allow humans to survive the Martian environment without costly life support systems. The first generation of Adapted had been scientists who volunteered, believing they were advancing humanity's future. Then came images of betrayal, Earth Command ordering the termination of all subjects when the modifications proved more extensive than anticipated. The survivors had fled into Mars' underground caverns, taking what technology they could salvage. For decades, they had built a civilization beneath the surface, evolving with each generation to become more suited to Mars. They had monitored Earth's communications, learning that eventually, someone would return either to finish what was started or to exploit the planet's resources. Commander, Yoshida called out, her voice urgent. I've restored partial communications with orbit. The retrieval team has accelerated their approach. They'll be landing in less than an hour, and they're armed with experimental weapons designed specifically to eliminate the Adapted. Chen looked from the screens showing the Adapted's history to the viewport where their representatives waited. Outside, the massive machine had been joined by more of the modified humans, all waiting in silent vigil. They're not just waiting for an answer, Chen realized. They're offering us a choice. The base's alarm systems suddenly flared to life. On the radar, multiple signatures were descending rapidly from orbit, the retrieval team arriving ahead of schedule. Commander, what are your orders? Rivera asked, his finger hovering over the defense controls. Chen looked at her team, then back at the Adapted waiting outside. Humanity's first contact with an intelligent species wasn't with aliens, it was with what humans themselves had created and then abandoned. The choice before her would determine not just their fate, but possibly the future relationship between two branches of humanity. Behind the Adapted, the retrieval team's ships appeared as distant lights descending through the Martian atmosphere, weapons no doubt primed and ready. Time was running out. Chen's decision crystallized as the retrieval ships cut through the thin Martian atmosphere. Open a direct channel to the lead ship, she ordered Yoshida. And prepare to broadcast on all frequencies. What are you doing, Commander? Rivera asked, tension evident in his voice. Buying us time. Chen took a deep breath. And maybe preventing a massacre. Before she could begin her transmission, the base's systems suddenly flickered. Screens went dark, then relit with unfamiliar code streaming across them. The lights dimmed to emergency levels. "We're being hacked," Yoshida reported, fingers flying across her console. "No, this isn't an attack. It's coming from orbit, but not from the retrieval ships." A new communication window opened on the main screen. The face that appeared belonged to a woman in her 60s, wearing the insignia of Earth United's highest military echelon. Her expression was grim, her eyes sharp with intelligence. "Commander Chen, I'm General Diane Winters. I don't have much time, so listen carefully." Chen recognized the name immediately. Winters had been her mentor at the academy before mysteriously retiring 3 years ago. The same year Chen had been recruited for the Mars mission. "The team descending to your position is not under Earth United authority," Winters continued. "They're a private military force funded by Nexus Corporation. They're there to acquire Heimdall technology, not to help you." Chen's mind raced. Nexus Corporation was Earth's largest defense contractor, with tentacles reaching into every aspect of government. "I don't understand," Chen said. "Our orders came directly from Command. Command has been compromised," Winters cut in. "Nexus has known about the Adapted for years. They've been monitoring the evolutionary advancements, waiting for the right moment to harvest the biotechnology. Your mission was designed to confirm the Adapted's location and capabilities before they moved in." Outside, the retrieval ships were beginning their landing sequence, touching down in a wide circle around the base and the gathered Adapted. "Why are you telling me this now?" Chen demanded. Winters' expression hardened. "Because Project Heimdall wasn't just about creating humans who could survive on Mars. It was about creating humans who could survive what's coming to Earth." The general's image briefly cut out, replaced by environmental data that made Chen's blood run cold. Atmospheric degradation, oceanic die-offs, and resource depletion, all trending toward a point of no return within 15 years. "Earth is dying faster than the public knows," Winters continued when her image reappeared. "The Adapted represent humanity's best hope for genetic modifications that might help us survive. But Nexus doesn't want to save humanity, they want to control who gets saved." The implications hit Chen like a physical blow. The mission, her team's presence on Mars, it was all part of a larger power struggle for the future of the human race. "What do you expect me to do?" Chen asked. "Whatever you can to protect the Adapted. My faction is sending reinforcements, but they won't arrive for hours. You need to hold out until then." The transmission abruptly ended as the first of the retrieval team's ships completed its landing sequence. Through the viewport, Chen could see armed personnel in specialized combat suits deploying in tactical formation. "Commander," Taylor called urgently from her station. "The Adapted are transmitting again. They're saying..." She paused, recalibrating her translation. "They're saying there's something else we need to see. Something deeper in the tunnel system." Rivera checked his tactical display. "The retrieval team is establishing a perimeter. They'll reach us in minutes." Chen made her decision. "Dr. Taylor, tell the Adapted we're coming out. Rivera, Yoshida, prepare the rover. We're making a run for the tunnel." "Commander, that's against all protocols," Rivera objected. "So is letting a corporate military slaughter an intelligent species," Chen countered. "Grab essential equipment and any data we've collected. We move in 5 minutes." As the team scrambled to prepare, the massive biomechanical machine the Adapted had brought forward suddenly shifted. Panels opened along its sides, revealing what appeared to be transport compartments. "They're offering us a ride," Taylor realized, watching the translation feed. "They say it's faster than our rover and shielded against weapons fire." The retrieval team was moving faster now, clearly aware that something was happening at the colony base. Their lead units had already activated weapon systems that hummed with ominous energy. Chen addressed her team. "I won't order any of you to come with me. This is beyond our mission parameters, and I take full responsibility for what happens next. Anyone who wants to stay and surrender to the retrieval team can do so." The silence that followed was brief but profound. "We're with you, Commander," Yoshida said simply, speaking for all of them. 4 minutes later, they abandoned the base, rushing across the Martian terrain toward the waiting adapted. The retrieval team immediately opened fire, energy weapons carving scorched paths in the red soil around them. The adapted moved with startling coordination, their modified bodies forming a protective formation around Chen's team. The massive machine opened its compartments, and Chen felt a moment of doubt as she led her people into the alien-looking interior. "What did they want to show us?" she asked Taylor as the compartment sealed behind them. Before Taylor could answer, the machine lurched into motion, accelerating toward the tunnel with surprising speed. Through viewing panels, Chen could see the retrieval team scrambling to pursue, but they were already falling behind. The machine plunged into the tunnel, descending rapidly into darkness. Light panels activated, illuminating a vast network of passageways that Chen realized must extend for kilometers beneath the Martian surface. "They've been busy," Rivera muttered, looking at the sophisticated engineering of the tunnel network. After several minutes of descent, the machine entered a massive cavern that took their breath away. The space was easily a kilometer across, with a domed ceiling supported by natural rock formations and artificial structures. And throughout the cavern was a thriving ecosystem, not just adapted, but plants, water systems, and even what appeared to be domesticated animals engineered for the Martian environment. "It's a city," Yoshida whispered in awe. "They built an entire civilization down here." But the machine didn't stop at the city. It continued through another tunnel, descending even deeper. "Commander," Taylor said, her voice tight with excitement or fear, Chen couldn't tell which. "They're saying what they want to show us isn't their city. It's what they found beneath it." The machine finally slowed as it entered another, smaller cavern. This one was different. The walls weren't carved by the adapted, but were smooth and geometric, made of a material none of them recognized. And at the center stood a structure that was unmistakably not of human origin. "My God," Chen breathed. "Is that not human?" Taylor confirmed, staring at her readings. "Not adapted. Something else entirely." The structure pulsed with a soft blue light, symbols etching themselves across its surface in patterns that seemed to respond to their presence. "The adapted say they discovered this 10 years ago," Taylor translated from the incoming data. "They believe it's why Earth really wants Mars. Not for minerals, not for colonization. For this." An adapted approached them, its modified features impossible to read but its posture suggesting urgency. It extended what appeared to be a data crystal toward Chen. "It contains everything they've learned about the structure," Taylor explained. "And a warning, the retrieval team isn't just after the adapted technology. They know about this, and they're here to claim it, whatever it is." As if to punctuate the warning, a distant rumble echoed through the cavern. The retrieval team had entered the tunnel system and was deploying explosives to clear a faster path. The adapted leader stepped forward, its modified vocal structures producing sounds that Chen's suit translated with mechanical precision. "Now you understand the true reason your kind has returned to Mars. Will you help us protect what neither of us fully understands?" Chen looked from the alien structure to the data crystal in her hand, then to her team's expectant faces. The rumbling from the tunnel grew louder. The retrieval force wouldn't be far behind. "We protect it," she said firmly, closing her fingers around the crystal. "Whatever this is, it doesn't belong to Nexus Corporation or any single faction of humanity." Relief visibly washed over the adapted leader's strange features. It gestured to several of its companions, who immediately moved toward the tunnel entrance, carrying what appeared to be modified mining equipment. "They're setting up defensive positions," Rivera observed, his tactical training kicking in. "But even with their advanced physiology, they won't last long against military-grade weapons." "Then we need to even the odds," Chen replied. She turned to Yoshida. "You're the best systems expert we have. Can you interface with their technology? Find a way to use the tunnel network against the retrieval team." Yoshida studied the biomechanical interfaces the adapted were using. "Their tech is unusual, but the underlying principles are still human. With their help, I might be able to trigger localized cave-ins, slow the retrieval team's advance." "Do it," Chen ordered, then turned to Taylor. I need you to keep working with the translation system. Find out everything you can about this structure. What is it? What does it do? Why would Nexus risk so much to get it? Taylor nodded, already coordinating with several adapted who seemed designated as their knowledge keepers. Rivera approached Chin privately. Commander, we're outnumbered and outgunned. Even with the adapted's help and whatever advantages this tunnel system gives us, we're looking at a fighting retreat at best. Maybe not, Chin said, her eyes fixed on the alien structure. This is what they really want. If we can understand it before the... Why get here? The next 30 minutes passed in a blur of activity. Yoshida worked with the adapted to rig the tunnel network with strategic weak points that could be collapsed remotely. Rivera helped organize defensive positions, impressed by the adapted's tactical intelligence. And Taylor, Commander! Taylor called out, her voice a mix of awe and urgency. I think I've figured it out. This structure, it's some kind of terraforming device. Chen joined her at the modified console where Taylor had been analyzing the data crystal. Terraforming? You mean it could make Mars habitable? More than that, Taylor said, pointing to the alien symbols that had been translated. If I'm reading this correctly, the adapted discovered this device a decade ago and have been studying it ever since. They believe it's part of a larger network spread throughout the planet's crust. When activated, it could transform Mars completely: atmosphere, temperature, water cycle, everything needed for Earth-like habitability in a matter of years instead of centuries. The implication struck Chen like a physical blow. No wonder Nexus wants control of it. Whoever harnesses this technology wouldn't just control Mars, they'd control humanity's future. There's more, Taylor continued. The adapted have been attempting to interface with it, but the device seems coded to respond to unmodified human genetics. They think that's why it's been activating more since our arrival. Before Chen could respond, Rivera's voice crackled over the comm. They've breached the first defensive line. Multiple casualties among the adapted. They're using some kind of targeted bioweapon. Chen's decision crystallized. How do we activate it? Taylor looked shocked. Commander, we don't know what will happen if Nexus gets control of this technology. They'll use it to decide who lives and who dies when Earth's ecosystem collapses, Chin cut in. We can't let that happen. A thunderous explosion rocked the cavern. Dust and debris rained down as the retrieval team blasted through another section of tunnel. They're coming too fast, Rivera reported. 10 minutes before they reached the central chamber. Chen looked at the alien structure, its blue light pulsing more rapidly now, almost as if it sensed the approaching conflict. How do we activate it? She repeated to Taylor. Taylor hesitated, then pointed to what appeared to be an interface panel. The adapted believe it requires direct human genetic contact, blood, tissue, DNA. But Commander, this goes against all first contact protocols. We have no idea what the full consequences might be. What we do know is what will happen if Nexus gets control of it, Chin countered. She made her way to the structure, removing her glove as she approached. Wait. The adapted leader moved forward, its modified vocal structures working to produce human-understandable speech. Not safe, for one. Taylor quickly translated the fuller message from her console. The device requires multiple human genetic signatures, a safeguard, they think. One person attempting activation alone could be injured or worse. Chen looked back at her team. I won't order any of you to do this. One by one, they stepped forward, Taylor, Yoshida, Rivera, and the 3 other remaining members of the original landing party. Together, they surrounded the alien structure. On my mark, Chen said, positioning her bare hand above what appeared to be a receptor surface. 3, 2, 1. 7 human hands pressed against the alien material simultaneously. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The blue light flared blindingly bright, and energy surged through the structure. Chen felt a strange tingling sensation shoot up her arm and spread throughout her body, not painful, but intensely foreign. The structure's surface shifted beneath their touch, symbols flowing and rearranging themselves. The entire cavern began to vibrate as systems dormant for millennia awakened. It's working! Taylor exclaimed, watching her instruments. The device is connecting to others across the planet. My God, it's actually beginning atmospheric modification already. A final explosion heralded the arrival of the retrieval team. Armed soldiers in advanced combat suits poured into the chamber, led by a man whose insignia marked him as their commander. "Step away from the device immediately," he ordered, raising a specialized weapon. "By authority of Earth United Security Council, that technology is now under Nexus Corporation protection." Chen and her team remained in position, hands still connected to the now humming structure. "This technology doesn't belong to Nexus," she replied. "It doesn't belong to anyone. It's already activating a planetary-wide terraforming sequence." The commander's expression hardened. "Final warning. Step away or we'll open fire." "If you fire," Chen said calmly, "you risk damaging the very technology you came to claim. And based on these energy readings, that would be inadvisable." Uncertainty flickered across the commander's face as he observed the increasingly powerful energy pulses emanating from the structure. That moment of hesitation was all the adapted needed. Dropping from concealed positions in the cavern ceiling, they fell upon the retrieval team with shocking speed and coordination. The cavern erupted into chaos as the two forces clashed. "Keep the connection," Taylor shouted over the sounds of combat. "The process is reaching a critical phase." Chen felt the alien device growing warmer beneath her palm, the tingling sensation intensifying to near pain. The blue light had spread from the structure to the very walls of the cavern, forming intricate patterns that seemed to be spreading outward through the rock itself. Suddenly, the fighting stopped as everyone in the cavern retrieval team, adapted, and Chen's crew, felt the ground shift beneath them. Not the localized trembling of explosives, but a deep, planetary movement. "What's happening?" the retrieval commander demanded, his weapon now lowered in shock. Taylor checked her readings, her expression one of astonishment. "The network is fully activating. It's not just terraforming Mars, it's waking it up." As if in response to her words, the alien structure suddenly detached from the floor and rose slowly into the air, still connected to Chen and her team by tendrils of blue energy. The walls of the cavern became transparent, revealing a vast network of similar structures buried throughout Mars' crust, all now glowing with the same vibrant blue light. "The adapted were right," Taylor whispered. "But they only understood part of it. This isn't just terraforming technology. It's like a planetary nervous system." A new image formed in the air above the floating structure, a holographic display showing Mars undergoing rapid transformation. But instead of the expected atmospheric changes, they watched as the planet itself seemed to reconfigure, ancient dormant systems reactivating after countless millennia. And then, impossibly, a voice, not human, not adapted, but something else entirely, filled their minds. Other than their ears, genetic reclamation accepted. Mars restoration protocol initiated. Ancient guardian awakening. The retrieval commander staggered back. "What have you done?" he demanded of Chen. Before she could answer, the holographic display shifted again, now showing Earth. Tiny lines of blue light, similar to the energy now coursing through Mars, appeared scattered across Earth's surface, previously dormant points now responding to the activation on Mars. "They're connected," Taylor realized. Earth and Mars, they were part of the same system. The voice came again, "Earth's sister world detected. Restoration network reestablishing. Terraforming protocols synchronized." The alien structure gently released Chen and her team, descending back to the cavern floor. The blue energy continued to pulse through the walls, floors, and ceiling, spreading throughout the planet. "The adapted were never the true evolution of humanity on Mars," Chen said, understanding dawning. "They were just the first step toward reawakening something that was here long before us. Something that might have been waiting for us all along." The retrieval commander looked from Chen to the now transformed cavern around them, his mission parameters clearly shattered by what he was witnessing. "Command needs to know about this. This changes everything." "Yes," Chen agreed. "But not in the way Nexus intended." As if to punctuate her words, a final message echoed through their minds. "Mars welcomes the return of the Cedars. Earth-Mars restoration begins." Climate repair protocols activated on both worlds. Chen looked at the adapted leader, whose modified features seemed to express something like wonder. "You protected this place until we could return," she said, without even knowing what it truly was. The creature made a gesture that needed no translation, a simple acknowledgement of a shared destiny. Above them, through the now transparent ceiling of the cavern network, they could see the Martian sky beginning to change color as ancient machinery buried beneath the surface for millions of years worked to restore the red planet to its long-forgotten state. And on screens showing their communications link with Earth, they watched as reports began flooding in of strange blue lights emerging from the ground at sites around the world, ancient technology responding to its sister network on Mars, beginning to heal the very planetary damage that had driven humanity to seek a future among the stars. Class 15 Deathworld, Rivera said with a quiet laugh. Turns out Mars wasn't the deadly one after all. We were killing our own planet. Chen watched as retrieval team members and adapted alike set down their weapons, united in witnessing the transformation unfolding around them. Maybe we were never meant to escape Earth, she said. Maybe we were meant to find our way back here, to remember what we once knew, what we once were. The alien structure pulsed once more, projecting a final image, Earth and Mars, twin worlds linked by the same network, the same ancient purpose, and now the same future. Chen reached out, her fingers intertwining with the modified hand of the adapted leader. Human and post-human, united by a shared heritage neither had fully understood until this moment, standing at the threshold of humanity's greatest discovery and its most unexpected homecoming point 3 months after the activation of what scientists now called the Planetary Restoration Network, Chen stood on the surface of Mars without a pressure suit for the first time. The thin, toxic atmosphere that had made Mars a Class 15 death world was transforming rapidly. She took a deep breath of air that, while still supplemented by a small breathing apparatus, contained enough oxygen to sustain human life for short periods. Behind her, the first true colony was taking shape, not the military outpost her original mission had planned, but a collaborative settlement where humans and adapted worked side by side. The massive dome structures weren't designed to seal out Mars anymore, but to ease the transition as the planet continued its accelerated transformation. "Still getting used to it?" Rivera asked, joining her on the ridge overlooking the valley where the ancient alien structure had first been discovered. Now, hundreds of similar structures had emerged across the planet's surface, each pulsing with the same blue energy that had spread through the underground caverns. "It feels like a dream," Chen admitted. 3 months ago, we were prepared for a lifelong struggle against this environment. Now we're watching it change before our eyes. The Martian sunset painted the landscape in familiar reds and oranges, but new colors were emerging, patches of blue where atmospheric composition was changing, and even hints of green where the first Earth plants, specially selected for transplantation, were taking root in soil that grew more fertile each day. "General Winters sent the latest Earth update," Rivera said, handing her a data pad. "The network continues to expand there too. Over 60% of critically damaged ecosystems are showing signs of recovery." The events on Mars had shaken Earth to its core. The revelation of the Planetary Restoration Network, along with the exposure of Nexus Corporation's attempt to monopolize the technology, had triggered massive political upheaval. Governments had fallen, corporations had been dismantled, but more importantly, a new sense of purpose had emerged. "And the Nexus executives?" Chen asked. "Most are facing charges for their roles in Project Heimdall and to the attempted military takeover here," Rivera replied. "But honestly, that feels less important now. The world's moved on to bigger questions." Those questions were profound. Who had built the Restoration Network? Were humans truly the seeders the system had recognized? And what did it mean for humanity's understanding of its origins and place in the cosmos? Taylor approached them, accompanied by one of the adapted leaders, the same one who had first extended the data crystal to Chen in the caverns. Over the months, the two species had developed an increasingly sophisticated method of communication. "The latest data is fascinating," Taylor said, barely containing her excitement. "We've decoded more of the historical archives stored in the central node. It appears the network was created over 50 million years ago by a civilization that inhabited both Earth and Mars when the planets were much more similar. Our ancestors? Chen asked. Taylor shook her head. Not directly, no. But this civilization seems to have seeded both planets with the building blocks that would eventually lead to life as we know it. The network was designed to maintain optimal conditions on both worlds, but something happened, a cosmic event, possibly, that damaged Mars' portion of the system and sent it into dormancy. Until we woke it up, Rivera added. Not just woke it up, Taylor corrected. According to the archives, the system was designed to recognize certain genetic signatures, a failsafe to ensure only the intended inheritors could reactivate it. Both unmodified humans and the adapted carry fragments of those signatures. The adapted leader made a series of gestures that Taylor had learned to interpret. They believe this was no accident, she translated. The original Project Heimdall scientists were drawn to Mars specifically because of subconscious signals from the dormant network. Even the genetic modifications that created the adapted were subtly influenced by the system, guiding their evolution toward the genetic keys needed for full activation. Chen looked out at the horizon, where the first hints of clouds were forming in the transforming atmosphere. So neither Earth nor Mars was our first home. We're returning to both. And saving them in the process, Yoshida added, joining the group. She pointed to her tablet showing the latest data from Earth. The network is systematically reversing climate damage, restoring natural systems, even neutralizing pollutants. It's like it's returning Earth to factory settings. Earth United had been reorganized, its corrupt elements purged. Chen had been offered a position of leadership, but had declined, preferring to remain on Mars with the colony. The retrieval team members who had witnessed the activation had become some of the strongest advocates for cooperation with the adapted, many choosing to stay behind when Earth sent ships to establish more formal diplomatic relations. What happens when both planets are fully restored? Rivera wondered. The adapted leader made a sweeping gesture toward the stars, which Taylor didn't need to translate. The implication was clear. Perhaps there were other worlds connected to the same network, waiting to be rediscovered as night fell on Mars, bringing with it a sky increasingly filled with Earth-like clouds that scattered the starlight. Chen thought about the classification that had once defined this world. Class 15 Deathworld, a place of extreme danger. It seemed laughable now. Mars hadn't been trying to kill them, it had been waiting for them to remember how to help it live again. In the colony, lights came on as humans and adapted prepared for the evening meal, a ritual that had developed as both species worked to understand each other. Scientists, engineers, and philosophers from Earth arrived on each transport, eager to study the restoration process and learn from the adapted's unique perspective. Chen's comm unit beeped with a message from General Winters. Nexus archives secured. Evidence suggests they had found traces of the network on Earth decades ago. They didn't understand what it was, but feared its activation would undermine their power. Your actions didn't just save Mars, Commander. You saved us all. As she walked back toward the colony, Chen saw a small group of children, the firstborn on Mars since the restoration began, playing with young adapted in a specially designed habitat dome. They seemed entirely unconcerned with the differences between them, focused instead on the simple joy of discovery. Perhaps that was humanity's true inheritance, not the technology of a long-vanished civilization, but the capacity to adapt, to rebuild, and to recognize kinship across the boundaries of time and evolution. Mars and Earth, different branches of the same ancient tree, were growing together once more, and somewhere in the stars above, perhaps other worlds waited for the same awakening.